Hey guys, I'm back with a new video. In this video, let us discuss about some important methods on the Promise API. So let us go back to the above code and let us see how we can leverage other methods that we have on the Promise API of JavaScript. Now what if we want to execute our promises that we have in a certain fashion? There are a couple of methods that can help in different use cases. Let us go over them in detail in this video. So now coming back to the very first method, which is Promise.race. So this method will take on an array of promises. So I can say Promise.race and I'll pass on an array of promises. So the very first promise, arrange items on plate. I'll pass pepper as 2 unit and tomato as 1 unit. And then I can say arrange items on plate. I can say salt as 1 unit, cucumber as 2 unit. Okay. So as you can see, this method is taking on an array of promises and it ensures that only one promise will get executed, which is the first one to resolve from these two promises. So you can think of it like having a race between both these promises that we have defined on line 50 and 51, and they're desperate to get resolved first. So the one that has a smaller task to perform will get resolved first, and all other promises will not get a chance for resolution. It's just that it is ignored. So both of the promises will get initiated concurrently, but the one who finishes first is the one to get resolved. So let us see the output for this in the console. I will tack on .10 to get the result, and I will log the data to the console. So let us go back to the browser to see the output. So you can see that this promise resolved first. So we are getting pepper as 2 and tomato as 1 first, because this promise ran first. It won the race between both the promises and it resolved first. Then the promise got resolved and we got the data to the console. Now what if we want to create a promise that was resolved or rejected when any of the provided promises are resolved or rejected? So we can make use of Promise.all method in this case. Now let us see what we can do, or we can do this with the code. So I can say Promise.all, or what I can do is I can copy the above code and put it here and just change the race method to all method. Now here we are looking for that all the promises get resolved. So we are interested in resolution of both the promises. We are not interested in having a race between both the promises. So I can comment the above code. Now with the all method, we'll wrap the consolidated result in a new promise. So let us see the output for this in the console. So here we are getting an array of promises. We are getting the combined result that you get from all the promises. The result gets returned exactly in the same order in which you passed that to all method. So first this got resolved and then this got resolved. Both of them got resolved. So this can be useful if you want to wait for all the promises to finish before you then make use of the consolidated data that you get back. The one thing here is you need to understand is if one of the promises failed, then other promises in line will not get executed at all. So let me show you this. So if I change or if I add water here, then this will get rejected because we have the condition that if you have water as a key in our plate, then we will throw an error or we will reject the promise. And once you reject the promise, then the .catch that we tack on here will run. And I can say console log error. So let us go back to the browser to see the output. So you can see the promises did not got resolved and we are getting the error because in one of our plates we were having water. So Promise.all failed and the catch block got triggered and you got the error to the console. Okay. So the one thing here you need to understand is that if one of the promises is failing, then other promises in line, or this one here, this promise, okay, will not get executed at all because the above promise failed. Now we are not interested in running more promises if at least one of them fails. because here we are interested that all promises get resolved, but one of our promises is failing here, and that is why the catch block will run and will log the error to the console that we are getting from our promise rejection. So here we are waiting for all the promises to get resolved. So if you want to know the status of each and every promise, that is, you want to know whether all the promises succeeded or not, then you can make use of yet another method of the Promise API, which is Promise.all.settled. So let me leave this code right here and make a copy of this, and I will change this to Promise.all.settled. Now this works a bit different. Now here what we want to do is, this will also take an array of promises, as you can see. So if I go back to the browser to see the output, you can see here we are getting an array of promises, and what is different here is that we are getting an array with the results for all the promises. Now for the first promise, it gives the status of rejected, and the reason was that we were having water on the plate. Okay, so this promise got rejected. We are getting the status for it in all settled method, and in the second one we are saying status as fulfilled, and the value is salt as 1 unit and cucumber as 2 unit. Now here, unlike Promise.all, this will not cancel the execution of other promises. Even if the first promise did failed, it did run the other promise. Okay, so if at least one of the promises got rejected, it will ensure that all the promises get settled, that is either resolved or rejected, but settled. Now here we wait for all the promises to get finished, whether resolved or rejected. So this was all about the video on promises. If you want to learn more about promises or async JavaScript, I do have a complete playlist for that. The link can be found down below. So if you liked the video, do give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and let's catch up in the next video.